Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios of Hive, Kent, Southeast England, just near the English Channel, where we're trying to keep transcendental sound flowing as much as possible, to do our part to try to clean the ether and the hearts of those who are willing to hear. We hope you're all safe and sound and protected in this difficult time we're going through. We're not these bodies, we're not these minds. The group karma of the world is what it is, and it's going to go through what it's going to go through, no matter what we think or do. So therefore, the best thing we can do for everyone is to keep ourselves as fully Krishna conscious as possible. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram from Sri Krishna Lila Stava, compiled by Srila Sanatan Goswami, senior disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, direct. Goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho, Kali Dvandoditaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin, Madguru Mad Mahadana, Mad Nistadaka Mad Bhagya, Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadhu sadhu tadayin hatini chochatakada hanamun chagadachin mam premna rit kantayokspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, we've reached the second canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We're in the first chapter, the first step in God realization. And Shukadeva Goswami has just how to say this? He's painted a very honest picture of the material world and material life. And now he's starting to explain how to rise above it. We're starting with text 17. Shukadeva Goswami is continuing. After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the 3 transcendental letters, A-U-M, and by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed. Purport. Omkara, or the Pranava, is the seed of transcendental realization, and it is composed of the 3 transcendental letters A-U-M. Chanting it within the mind, in conjunction with the breathing process, is a transcendental mechanical way of getting into trance devised by great experienced mystics. In this way, one is able to bring one's materially absorbed mind under control and change the habit of the mind. The mind is not to be killed. Mind or desire cannot be stopped, but to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, one has to change the quality of engagement of the mind. The mind is the pivot of the active sense organs. And as such, if the quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally the quality of actions by the instrumental senses will also change. Omkara is the seed of all transcendental sound, and it is only the transcendental sound which can bring about the desired change of the mind and the senses. Even a mentally deranged man can be cured by treatment of transcendental sound. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Pranava Omkara has been accepted as the direct literal representation of the Supreme Absolute Truth. One who is not able to chant directly the holy name of the Lord, as recommended above, can easily chant the Pranava Omkara. This Omkara is a note of address, such as, O my Lord. Just as Om Hari Om means, O my Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we have explained before, the Lord's holy name is identical with the Lord Himself. So also is Omkara. But persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses, in other words, the neophytes, are trained in the practice of self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing function and simultaneously repeating the pranava, omkara, within the mind. As we have several times expressed, since the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, and so on of the personality of Godhead are impossible to understand with the present material senses, it is necessary that through the mind, the center of sensual activities, such transcendental realization be set into motion. The devotees directly fix their minds on the person of the Absolute Truth, but one who was unable to accommodate such personal features of the Absolute is disciplined in impersonality to train the mind to make further progress. Text 18. Gradually, as the mind becomes progressively spiritualized, withdraw it from sense activities, and by intelligence, the senses will be controlled. The mind, too absorbed in material activities, can be engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead and become fixed in full transcendental consciousness. Purport. The first process of spiritualizing the mind by mechanical chanting of the pranava, omkara, and by control of the breathing system is technically called the mystic or yogic process of pranayama, or fully controlling the breathing air. The ultimate stage of this pranayama system is to be fixed in trance, technically called samadhi. But experience has proven that even the samadhi stage also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. For example, the great mystic Vishwamrita Muni, even in the stage of samadhi, became a victim of the senses and cohabited with Menaka. History has already recorded this. The mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers past sensual activities from the subconscious status, and thus disturbs one from percent engagement in self-realization. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami recommends the next step of assured policy, namely to fix one's mind in the service of the personality of Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also recommends this direct process in the Bhagavad Gita 6:47. Thus, the mind being spiritually cleansed, one should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord by the different devotional activities of hearing, chanting, and so on. If performed under proper guidance, that is the surest path of progress, even for the disturbed mind. Text 19. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thereafter, you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu, one after another, without being deviated from the conception of the complete body. Thus the mind becomes free from all sense objects. There should be no other thing to be thought upon. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is the ultimate truth, the mind becomes completely reconciled in Him only. Purport. Foolish persons, bewildered by the external energy of Vishnu, do not know that the ultimate goal of the progressive search after happiness is to get in touch directly with Lord Vishnu, the Personality of Godhead. Vishnu Tattva Vishnu Tattva is an unlimited expansion of different transcendental forms of the Personality of Godhead, and the supreme or original form of Vishnu Tattva is Govinda, or Lord Krishna, the supreme cause of all causes. Therefore, thinking of Vishnu or meditating upon the transcendental form of Vishnu, specifically upon Lord Krishna, is the last word on the subject of meditation. This meditation may be begun from the lotus feet of the Lord. One should not, however, forget or be misled from the complete form of the Lord. Thus one should practice thinking of the different parts of His transcendental body, one after another. Here in this verse, it is definitely assured that the Supreme Lord is not impersonal. He is a person, but His body is different from the bodies of conditioned persons like us. Otherwise, meditation beginning from the pranava, omkara, up to the limbs of the personal body of Vishnu would not have been recommended by Shukadeva Goswami for the attainment of complete spiritual perfection. The Vishnu forms of worship in great temples of India are not, therefore, arrangements of idol worship, as they are wrongly interpreted to be by a class of men with a poor fund of knowledge. Rather, they are different spiritual centers of meditation on the transcendental limbs of the body of Vishnu. The worshipable deity in the temple of Vishnu is identical with Lord Vishnu by the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Therefore, a neophyte's concentration or meditation upon the limbs of Vishnu in the temple, as contemplated in the revealed scriptures, is an easy opportunity for meditation for persons who are unable to sit down tightly at one place and then concentrate upon Pranava Omkara, or the limbs of the body of Vishnu, as recommended herein by Shukadev Goswami, the great authority. The common man can benefit more by meditating on the form of Vishnu in the temple than on the Omkara, the spiritual combination of AUM, as explained before. There is no difference between Omkara and the forms of Vishnu, but persons unacquainted with the science of the Absolute Truth try to create dissension by differentiating between them. Here it is indicated that the Vishnu form is the ultimate goal of meditation, and as such, it is better to concentrate upon the forms of Vishnu than on impersonal Omkara. The latter process is also more difficult than the former. Text 20. One's mind is always agitated by the passionate mode of material nature and bewildered by the ignorant mode of nature. But one can rectify such conceptions by the relation of Vishnu and thus become pacified by cleansing the dirty things created by them. Purport. Persons generally conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance cannot be bona fide candidates for being situated in the transcendental stage of God realization. Only persons conducted by the mode of goodness can have the knowledge of the Supreme Truth. Effects of the modes of passion and ignorance are manifested by too much hankering after wealth and women. And those who are too much after wealth and women can rectify their leanings only by constant remembrance of Vishnu in his material potency, his impersonal feature. Generally, the impersonalists or monists are influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance. Such impersonalists think of themselves as liberated souls, but they have no knowledge of the transcendental personal feature of the Absolute Truth. Actually, they are impure in heart on account of being devoid of knowledge of the personal feature of the Absolute. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said that after many hundreds of births, the impersonal philosopher surrenders under the personality of Godhead. To acquire such a qualification of God realization in the personal feature, the neophyte impersonalist is given a chance to realize the relation of the Lord in everything by the philosophy of pantheism. Pantheism, in its higher status, does not permit the student to form an impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth, but it extends the conception of the Absolute Truth into the field of the so-called material energy. Everything created by the material energy can be dovetailed with the Absolute by an attitude of service, which is the essential part of the living energy. This is so important. I'm going to read this again. Everything created by the material energy can be dovetailed with the Absolute by an attitude of service, which is the essential part of living energy. The pure devotee of the Lord knows the art of converting everything into its spiritual existence by this service attitude, and only in that devotional way can the theory of pantheism be perfected. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What brilliant purports Prabhupada is writing here. Text 21. O King, by this system of remembrance, and by being fixed in the habit of seeing the all-good personal conception of the Lord, one can very soon attain devotional service to the Lord under His direct shelter. Purport. Successive mystic performances is achieved only by the help of the devotional attitude. Pantheism, or the system of feeling the presence of the Almighty everywhere, is a sort of training of the mind to become accustomed to the devotional conception. And it is this devotional attitude of the mystic that makes possible the successful termination of such mystic attempts. One is not, however, elevated to such a successful status without mixing in a tinge of devotional service. The devotional atmosphere created by pantheistic vision develops into devotional service in later days, and that is the only benefit for the impersonalist. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5 that the impersonal way of self-realization is more troublesome because it reaches the goal in an indirect way, although the impersonalist also becomes obsessed with the personal feature of the Lord after a long time. Prabhupada gave us the shortcuts, the high-speed elevator. Text 22. The fortunate King Parikshit, inquiring further, said, O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied, and how the conception can be fixed so that the dirty things in a person's mind can be removed. Purport. The dirty things in the heart of a conditioned soul are the root cause of all troubles for him. A conditioned soul is surrounded by the manifold miseries of material existence, and on account of his gross ignorance, he is unable to remove the troubles due to dirty things in the heart, accumulated during the long prison life in the material world. He is actually meant to serve the will of the Supreme Lord, but on account of the dirty things in the heart, he likes to serve his concocted desires. These desires, instead of giving him any peace of mind, create new problems, and thus bind him to the cycle of repeated birth and death. These dirty things of fruitive work and empiric philosophy can be removed only by association with the Supreme Lord. The Lord, being omnipotent, can offer his association by his inconceivable potencies. Thus, persons who are unable to pin their faith on the personal feature of the Absolute are given a chance to associate with his Virat Rupa, or the cosmic impersonal feature of the Lord. The cosmic impersonal feature of the Lord is a feature of his unlimited potencies. Since the potent and potencies are identical, even the conception of his impersonal cosmic feature helps the conditioned soul to associate with the Lord indirectly, and thus gradually rise to the stage of personal contact. Maharaj Parikshit was already directly connected with the personal feature of Lord Sri Krishna, and as such, he had no need to inquire from Shukadeva Goswami about where and how to apply the mind in the impersonal Virat Rupa of the Lord. But he inquired after a detailed description of the matter for the benefit of others who were unable to conceive of the transcendental personal feature of the Lord as the form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. The non-devotee class of men cannot think of the personal feature of the Lord. Because of their poor fund of knowledge, the personal form of the Lord, like Rama or Krishna, is completely revolting to them. They have a poor estimation of the potency of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:11, it is explained by the Lord himself that people with a poor fund of knowledge deride the Supreme Personality of God, of the Lord, taking him to be a common man. Such men are ignorant of the inconceivable potency of the Lord. By the inconceivable potency of the Lord, he can move in human society or any other society of living beings, and yet remain the same omnipotent Lord, without deviating in the slightest from his transcendental position. So, for the benefit of men who are unable to accept the Lord in his personal eternal form, Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami how to fix the mind on him in the beginning, and the Goswami replied in detail as follows. Text 23. Shukadev Goswami answered, One should control the sitting posture, regulate the breathing process by the yogic pranayama, and thus control the mind and senses with intelligence, apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord, called the Virat Rupa. Purport. The materially absorbed mind of the conditioned soul does not allow him to transcend the limit of the bodily conception of self, and thus the yoga system for meditation, controlling the sitting posture and breathing process and fixing the mind upon the Supreme, is prescribed in order to mold the character of the gross materialist. Unless such materialists are able to cleanse the materially absorbed mind, it is impossible for them to concentrate upon thoughts of transcendence. And to do so, one may fix one's mind on the gross material or external feature of the Lord. The different parts of the gigantic form of the Lord are described in the following verses. The materialistic men are very anxious to have some mystic powers as a result of such a controlling process. But the real purpose of yogic regulations is to eradicate the accumulated dirty things like lust, anger, avarice, and all such material contaminations. If the mystic yogi is diverted by the accompanying feats of mystic control, then his mission of yogic success is a failure, because the ultimate aim is God realization. He is therefore recommended to fix his gross materialistic mind by a different conception, and thus realize the potency of the Lord. As soon as the potencies are understood to be instrumental manifestations of the transcendence, one automatically advances to the next step, and gradually the stage of full realization becomes possible for him. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Text 24. This gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is the personal body of the Absolute Truth, wherein the universal resultant past, present, and future of material... I'll read that again. This gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is the personal body of the Absolute Truth, wherein the universal resultant past, present, and future of material time is experienced. Purport. Anything, either material or spiritual, is but an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, And as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 13:14, the omnipotent Lord has his transcendental eyes, heads, and other bodily parts distributed everywhere. He can see, hear, touch, or manifest himself anywhere and everywhere, for he is present everywhere as the supersoul of all infinitesimal souls, although he has his particular abode in the absolute world. The relative world is also his phenomenal representation, because it is nothing but an expansion of his transcendental energy. Although he is in his abode, his energy is distributed everywhere, just as the sun is localized as well as expanded everywhere, since the rays of the sun, being non-different from the sun, are accepted as expansions of the sun disk. In the Vishnu Purāṇa 122:56, it is said that as fire expands its rays and heat from one place, similarly, the Supreme Spirit, the personality of Godhead, expands himself by his manifold energy everywhere and anywhere. The phenomenal manifestation of the gigantic universal Virat Rupa is only a part of his body. Less intelligent men cannot conceive of the transcendental, all-spiritual form of the Lord, but they are astounded by his different energies, just as the Aborigines are struck with wonder by the manifestation of lightning, a gigantic mountain, or a hugely expanded banyan tree. The Aborigines praise the strength of the tiger and the elephant because of their superior energy and strength. The Asuras cannot recognize the existence of the Lord, although there are vivid descriptions of the Lord in the revealed scriptures. Although the Lord incarnates and exhibits his uncommon strength and energy, and although he is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by learned scholars and saints like Vyasadeva, Narada, Asita, and Devala in the past, and by Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, as also by acharyas like Shankar, Ramanuja, Madhva, and Lord Sri Chaitanya in the present age. That was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-line sentence. The Asuras do not accept any evidential proof from the revealed scriptures, nor do they recognize the authority of the great acharyas. They want to see with their own eyes at once. Therefore, they can see the gigantic body of the Lord as Virat, which will answer their challenge. And since they are accustomed to paying homage to superior material strength, like that of the tiger, elephant, and lightning, they can offer respect to the Virat Rupa. Lord Krishna, by the request of Arjuna, exhibited his Virat Rupa for the Asuras. A pure devotee of the Lord, being unaccustomed to looking into such a mundane, gigantic form of the Lord, requires special vision for the purpose. The Lord therefore favored Arjuna with special vision for looking into his Virat Rupa, which is described in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This Virat Rupa of the Lord was especially manifested not for the benefit of Arjuna, but for that unintelligent class of men who accept anyone and everyone as an incarnation of the Lord, and so mislead the general mass of people. For them, the indication is that one should ask the cheap incarnation to exhibit his Virat Rupa and thus be established as an incarnation. The Virat Rupa manifestation of the Lord is simultaneously a challenge to the atheist and a favor for the Asuras, who can think of the Lord as Virat and thus gradually cleanse the dirty things from their hearts in order to become qualified to actually see the transcendental form of the Lord in the near future. This is a favor of the all-merciful Lord to the atheists and the gross materialists. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. These purports are unbelievable. Okay, we're almost at 8 o'clock, believe it or not. That was a good 40 minutes. So we'll stop our reading here, and we'll take it up again at text 25 tomorrow. And we ask the assembled sages, please, to present their reflections. Hare Krishna.
First is from Raikanu.
Raikanu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, all glories to His divine grace. Thank you for that.
And from Christopher.
Haribol, Bhakta Christopher.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Nice to have you aboard.
Rati Manjari says, Jai Guru Maharaj, my daily immersion in truth.
Hare Krishna. It's a fact. It's a fact. Thank you.
And from Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Yes, Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, and all assembled sages, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai Ho Maharaj for distribution of nectars from the transcendental treasure of Srila Prabhupada's books.
They are a treasure, aren't they? These purports explain everything so clearly, with no confusion.
All glories to you, dear Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Sudevi Dasi says, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol. Excuse me. Haribol. I drank something down the wrong pipe. Excuse me. Hare Krishna, Sudevi Dasi. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Isn't it wonderful how Srila Prabhupada gave us the transcendental form of the deities so that we can always think of them. We place pictures everywhere around so we can always be reminded of them, and therefore it's like we skip over this step of, meditating on the material energy.
From Christopher.
Yes, Bhakta Christopher.
Hare Krishna. I love how Prabhupada compares Krishna to the sun. It is a great analogy. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for another wonderful reading.
Yes, thank you. And that's a very nice thing to note. It's the essence of the purports that we just read. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same topic. The unfolding of the first step in self-realization or God-realization, and how Srila Prabhupada very expertly allowed us to skip this stage of meditating on the Virata Rupa by teaching us how to engage all the forms in the service of the Lord. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.